Everybody, my name is Margot Hope and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I have a Facebook group that I would love to invite you to. It is Mad About You Paper Crafts and Gifts, and I also can be found on my Stampin' Up! Website at margothope.stampinup.net, along with my business website, madaboutyougifts.com. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about tonight's demonstration, or if you have a desire to place an order or even possibly join my team. I would love to have you. Today I chose to share with you a stamp that I found in our brand new catalog. It is called Layered Stripes. I really like this set. I've had a lot of fun playing with it, learning how to use it, and I'm excited to be able to share it with you. It's a pattern of geometric shapes, and it's a full-size rubber stamp. It's a cling stamp, which means it's going to cling to your block. You're going to need a size F block to be able to hold this stamp. That's something that can be found on the Stampin' Up! Website, so you can either shop with me or the demonstrator of your choice to find this stamp in the new mini catalog. So I'm also going to be using for my greetings tonight a set called Something Fancy, and I use this one to take my inside greeting from, and then I also use the Happy Labels set to take my front greeting from. Now, you don't have to have these two stamp sets in order to do this card. You can use any greetings that you already have on hand. These are just the two that I chose, and they are both available in the new mini catalog. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with making this card that I brought for you today. And this is the card that we're going to be making. It is a fun fold card. It opens up and it has a greeting on the inside, a greeting on the outside, and it folds, and it has some really nice gold detailing to go along with it, and I'm going to show you how to do that greeting. So let's set that aside and let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do in order to use this stamp, if you're going to be embossing with it, is to take your Versamark embossing ink, and that's what I'm using because I did emboss everything on this card pretty much. And you're just going to sponge it onto the stamp just like this, and just kind of make sure that you're covering all the areas as best you can. And then after you've done that, you're going to want to take a piece of gray cardstock. It's 4.5 by 5 1/4 that I used to lay here, and I just laid it right there on the center, and then I used my bone folder to smooth out that ink onto the paper. So I'm just kind of making sure that I'm covering the whole piece of paper with it. And when you are done, you should be able to see the pattern of the stamp on your paper. The next thing you're going to do is use your black embossing powder to sprinkle the powder onto your paper. So you're just going to cover your paper as best you can with the embossing powder. You don't have to worry about being perfect with this card, because you can get your fingers in this. You can do whatever you need to do to get the powder on. See how I left a fingerprint there, and that's okay. You don't need to worry about that. There's also a space here that didn't get the black powder, and that's okay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put another space and rub some off of that corner down there, and just to show you how fun it will be when we add our gold powder to that design. So I'm going to take some gold embossing powder now, and you can find all of our embossing powders in our catalog. Our annual catalog has a kit of all the colors of our basic colors of our embossing powder in that kit, and it's a fun one to have around because that way you have some of all of our basic colors that you can use. And I'm not trying to cover the whole card with this. I'm just kind of shaking it over where I put my fingerprint, not worrying about whether I have full coverage of this. So as you can see, I've got some blank areas, I've got some areas that are covered with gold, and you'll see some areas that are covered with black ink, black embossing powder. So I'll set that aside because through the magic of television, ta-da, I have gotten this piece already embossed for you. And when you're embossing, I just want to give you a little tip. You're going to want to make sure that you evenly run your embossing tool, your heat tool, back and forth evenly across your card. Don't have your hand under it though. And you're going to go back and forth evenly, and up and down, and then diagonally, and just emboss the whole thing until you see the shininess of the card coming to life. When you're done, you're not going to really be done. You're going to think you're done, but then you're going to hold your paper and you go, oh, I missed a spot. So keep doing that. Keep checking to see if you missed a spot until you can't find any more places that don't have the powder already melted and shining for you. So let's talk about the layers that we're going to be using for this card. So the first layer, of course, is going to be our basic black cardstock. And that is, it's 5.5 by 8.5, and we're going to score it at 1 3/4 by 5 3/4. So let me turn this around so you can see it. So I'm going to lay this here at 1 3/4. Whoops, I'm on the wrong end anyway. Here we go. At 1 3/4. Am I on the wrong end? No, I am on the wrong end. Sorry, I had it right the first time. Here we go. I know what I'm doing. Really, I do. So I'm going to go to 1 3/4 with the edge of my paper. So 1 3/4. And we're scoring, we're not cutting. So get your cutting blade out of the way. And you're going to use your scoring blade. And you're going to score that at 1 3/4. And then you're going to move it down all the way to 5 3/4. And you're going to score it again. That's all there is to this. So then you'll have the score lines on your paper, and that's where your folds are going to be. So I'm going to set that aside. Well, actually, I'm going to set it aside, and then I'm going to show you some of what the layers are that we're going to use. But I want to also share with you the embellishments that we're using. So these embellishments are the pastel adhesive backed sequins that are also available in the new mini catalog. Really pretty, and they come in 2 sizes. These are the small ones, and there's another sheet of a little bit larger ones in that same pack. And I use these. I use the small ones. And then I use this beautiful new fine shimmer paper that you can get, and also in the new catalog. It's 12 by 12, but I cut it to 6 by 6 just to be able to make it easier to show it to you here. You get 3 colors. You're going to get the soft succulent, and you're going to get the gold, and then you're going to get a freesia. And these are all so pretty and so shimmery, and I can see why they call it fine shimmer, because the shimmer on here is really fine, and I love this paper. So we're going to be using that also on the card. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we have scored our base here, is I'm going to show you another trick here, what we're going to do with embossing powder. So on the narrow side that has been scored, this will become the flap that folds over one side. So we're going to also emboss this edge just to give you a feel for just a little different detail that I wanted to add to this card. Just a little thing, a little extra little kiss of glitter and sparkle. So to do that, I took my Versamark pad, and again on the narrow end, that's the 1 3/4 side of the fold, you're going to take this and you're going to run it through your Versamark. You're just going to pull it through the pad, and do that a couple of times through the pad. You're putting the ink on the edge of the cardstock, so we're just running it through just a couple times. And then you may or may not be able to see the ink on camera, but there is a fine line of gold ink there. And so we want to just go ahead and get that. Just going to run that through the gold embossing powder as well, kind of the same way like you're sawing. And that will put, let me just do that again. Just saw back and forth. Don't try to shake the powder on, because you want a straight line. Unfortunately, I didn't do that right. So don't do what I did. Do as I say. This is the side that is straight, and that is the correct way that this should look when you're done with it. then while we have the gold embossing powder still out, you're going to want to stamp your greeting. So this one, the greeting is going to say thank you. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp, and I want to put the greeting as close to the score line as I can get it. So I don't want to go over that score line, but I want to put it low and I want to put it close to the score line so that it doesn't interfere when you fold this card. It's not going to interfere with the greeting and being tucked under the front of the card, which you'll understand a little bit better later. So then we're going to emboss that. I'll put the powder on there, and I'm going to like use a tool to get that excess powder off of there. You could also use your embossing buddy if you have one ahead of time. Just go over it with your embossing buddy so that the embossing powder doesn't stick where you don't want it to stick. That is the miracle of the embossing buddy. All right, so you have your edge here and you have your greeting here. And again, through the miracle of television, I can show you now what that looks like. So you're going to have your edged piece with that gold edge, and then you're going to have your thank you stamped right up next to that crease. Okay, so we're moving right along here. So the next thing that I want to share with you is the various layers that I use to create this card. So on the wide side of the fold, which is the 5 3/4 edge, I used fine shimmer paper, that fine shimmer in gold, and this is cut to 2.5 by 5 1/4. So it's going to go here, and then we have basic gray layer, which is 5 1/4 by, it's 5 1/4 by 2.5, 5 1/4 by 2.5. And then we're going to have another layer that is black, and that one is 2 by 4 3/4, and that's going to go on next. And then we're going to have a piece of the paper that we just embossed. I cut it down, I cut a piece out, and the piece that I cut out is 1.5 by 4 1/4. And that's going to be the top layer for this side, and you're going to see how this lines up, because again, through the miracle of television, I have it all layered up for you. So everything is nice and straight and layered. So this is going to go right on the front, the widest panel on the front. So what I did was I just cut a piece off of that big stamped image, and that's how I got this design. And depending on how you cut it will depend on how much of that design shows up and what corners and edges you get on your design. So I'm going to be using my green glue, the liquid adhesive. I'm going to use the fat side. So we have a fine point and we have the fat side. So I'm going to use the fat side to get it out here. Let me just shake that out. And I like this fat side because you can actually spread the adhesive faster. And I don't know if you've noticed that when you use the fine tip on certain paper, you see the lines, the scribble lines that you use. So you want to be careful not to press too hard when you're using the fine tip on that glue, so you don't get a pattern showing through your card. And we're just going to line that up right onto the card base. Okay. And then we have a couple of other pieces that go with this card. Let me just get a little tissue here and take off that little bit of extra glue that seeped out of the edge there. Just get that out of the way. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the design on the front of the card. So to create the design on the front of the card, I cut a piece of black cardstock to 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. It's a square because I decided to die cut 2 pieces to finish off the front. So I used this set. It's called the Stylish Shapes dies, and it's these really cute shapes. You get circles and you get squares and you get some little tags that you can use. And so I took the largest 2 rectangles from this set, ran it through my die cutting machine on the black paper, I'm sorry, not the black paper, I ran it on the gold shimmer paper. so I have this stitched look around it. And then I also used a piece of that paper that we embossed on the basic gray to create the top layer there. So again, through the magic of television, I've already adhered that together for you. And one other step I did was I also did that same technique of lining the square of the black piece, this 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 square. I ran it through the same way I did to get the edge on the outside of the card. So next, what I did was I drew a line here. So I laid the card where I think I wanted the card to be on the front of this card, because this is going to become the front piece. So it's going to fold just like that. And there, I drew a line so that when I adhere this card, I'm not going to put glue on the incorrect side of that line, because we don't want the glue to stick onto the fold, or you won't be able to open and close your card. So I'm not going to put the glue on this tiny piece. I'm going to put the adhesive all the way over here on the wider area, and for that I am going to use the smaller tip and just get a little bit out of there. It's a little bit clogged there. Come on. Hello, anybody home? Oh, there's a big old goober in there. Okay, well, if all else fails, get out the take your pick tool and just go in and grab anything that's in there holding back the adhesive. Let me put this bottom on so I don't accidentally get glue all over myself. And let's try this again. Okay, come on. Okay, is there any magic of television I can use to get this adhesive to come out? Oh, it's coming out through the lid. That's not what we want. So something's going on. There's a clog in there somewhere. So let me just get a different bottle here. Pardon me. You know what I'll do? I'll just use my seal, which is just as easy and just as efficient. So there you go. Let me just wipe my hands off because I have got glue on my hand. Okay, so I've got a sticky situation going on here. Haha. All right, so now I'm looking to see where that line is so that I make sure that I don't let that adhesive come over that line. Okay, so I just put it on just like that. So the line has disappeared, and there's my card. And if you don't like where it is, if you're using liquid adhesive, you have some time to pick it up and realign it. Just double check that you don't have adhesive showing where you don't want it, so you don't stick your card together. Now, I'll tell you a little trick that I use, and that is when I'm doing a fun fold that needs to stay folded like this, I do a really good score on it. I do a really good score. I press really good on it just to break down those fibers of the paper. And then I'll take a glue dot and use a glue dot to, I'm looking for my actual roll of glue dots that I wanted to show you this with. This is a different glue dot that I'm not sure where it came from, but our Stampin' Up! Glue dots are smaller than this one. Anyway, you're just going to put the smaller glue dot on the tip there, and then when you close that, it's going to stay closed long enough for the card to relax and get used to being closed like that. And you can do that after you finish the card. Just do that, and then it easily comes off. So that is a little tip that I use, and it does work. So to help hold the card down after you have done it and you want it to stay closed. Or you can also add a belly band to it to help hold it closed, or a piece of ribbon, but I just decided I liked the card the way it looked without a belly band. So the next thing we're going to do is add the rest of our layers. So the inside layer is a piece of basic gray. This basic gray is What did I do? I don't remember. Let me measure it. It is 3.5 by 5. So that's going to go on the inside, 3.5 by 5 on the inside. And we're going to see if I can get my seal to work on this. Okay. If your seal ever gets stuck like that, you can just touch it onto something that's already on that's sticky. That'll get it going, or you can use your finger to get it to go again. And I always say just like stand on your tippy toes to drag it, and it will work just fine for you. It takes a little practice if you're new to that product, but once you get the hang of it, it's a really good product. So then we're going to just center this into the middle of the card. And then we're going to put your greeting layer on. This is a shimmer white cardstock, and the shimmer is, it's like 3 1/8 by 4 3/4. And that I pre-stamped my greeting on. It says, "May the good you do come back to you." This is a thank you card. So it's going to somebody who's done a lot of good. So I'm gonna just go ahead and line that up with my seal. I like to do these with the liquid adhesive the best because of the wiggle room you get, but you do still get a little bit of wiggle room with the seal. Just, you have to be quick. Then we're just gonna try your best to center that onto the inside. I added a little strip of the leftover pieces of my embossed piece that we did from the stamp set, and that is it. That's the whole card. We're going to close that. Oh no, that's not it. I want to put some embellishments on, so I'm going to use my take your pick tool to pick up a few gems here. And let's see. Now, every pattern that you come up with on the front is going to be different. So where you place your gems may be different each time too. For this one, I'm going to put some gems right here. Just like that. I'm going to put 3 there, I think. And I like to work in odd numbers, so I'm going to put a couple over here, up here. So 2 up there. And there you go, there's that decoration for the front, and that just kind of finishes the card for you. That's the front of the card. Remember, you can take a little glue dot to hold that down until it the cardstock has a chance to relax. You can go over it a couple more times with your bone folder and just kind of help it break down that fiber to get it to stay closed. But just keep working with it. It will, I promise you, it will stay closed. I have one here that I did earlier, and it is staying closed. And you just have to work with it a little bit, or as I said, you can decide to tie a bow on there or use a belly band. So I thank you for watching tonight. Just want to share with you a couple of other projects that I did with this same set. So we're going, this one is kind of a little distressed, you would say, distressed. And I also purposely put the layer on back on crooked. And then I really like this one. It says hello, and this is some designer series paper you can find. All 3 of these designer series papers came from the same set of designer series paper. You can find that in our catalog as well. I used the fresh freesia fine shimmer paper as a layering piece here, and I also incorporated these gems that we used in gold. I used the blue ones on there, and instead of embossing the pattern on here, I just stamped it on. So I got this piece and this out of the same piece of 4x6, 4.5 by 5 1/4. So these are some cards that I put together with this set. I'd love to see what you decide to do with it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to order your PDF, and remember that the proceeds are going to go to the Michael J. Fox Parkinson's Research. And thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the event. Bye-bye.